I'd like to actually divide this conversation into three parts. First of all, just looking at the role of the CEO. What can the CEO do? What is expected of him or her? What characteristics do they need to be good at crisis management in the modern world? Secondly, I'd like to look at what has changed in the world in the last few years with Twitter, Facebook, all of those things. How does that change reputation management? And finally, then, turning the spotlight perhaps on the banking sector and seeing what the way forward might be there.
I think trust in the management of a company is fundamental for all of us, and I'm including everyone here, no matter what size of shareholdings you have or whatever. It is the most fundamental point of investing, which is why before we would invest, we meet the management of every company. We do in-depth research and look at it very closely before we make that decision.
The role of the CEO at that point, I think, in the crisis I found was make sure everyone knows what they're doing, give people hope, create the environment in which people can work, get rid of the people that have caused the problem. There was a big part of that going on, and work incredibly hard to make sure that stakeholders, whether it be customers, government, regulators, understand what you're doing and are helping you repair the reputation.
The speed of focus on reputation issues has become sort of exponential courtesy of the internet and social media. And so what were small events or out-of-sight events are now held in full public view and are multiplied and go viral very quickly. So you have got less time to react, I think, and you have to therefore have an idea of where the main booby traps, are going to sort of come from. One of the things you do have to do from a leadership point of view is figure out who are the people that you really need to have solid relationships with, spend the time with them well up front, because you never know when you might need it. And certainly I went through a not particularly enjoyable day yesterday talking about the first profit decline I've had to have in the first 5 years of being here. And what I was amazed by was the people I was expecting to sort of hit me over the head said, "Oh no, we understand where you're coming from, it's fine, you've made it clear." If we hadn't done the relationship building, I would have definitely been kicked around the park yesterday.
But the other thing is, don't say stupid things.
Yeah.
And don't score own goals. Because if you say, I've been spending lots of time on this and I want to get my life back when your company has just killed lots of people.
Yeah.
Or if when you are...
Seen on a boat.
When I was chief executive of Barclaycard, my boss, appearing in front of a Treasury Select Committee, says, I wouldn't recommend my children have a credit card. That is a stupid thing to say. However well-meaning it is. I nearly hit him. I was just sitting behind him when he said it. But you just have to be clear what your messages are and be in touch with reality and the real world and real consumers. And lots of leaders of big companies get out of touch with real world and are on their yachts or whatever and say stupid things because they don't understand what the public really want to hear.
For me, so long as you are genuine about what's in front of you, people will give you a huge amount of credit. If you try and in any way run away from it, they think actually you're untrustworthy and they're giving you...
This point about time, you have to now solve problems instantly. You don't have the, I'm going to write you a letter, it's going to take 5 days to investigate, we'll get back to you, This is instant gratification. So the time compression on dealing with service issues has just been completely changed. And the old rule about telling 20 people about an experience, it's now more like 2,000 people. So the price for consumer-facing organizations, I think, has gone up. But equally, the value of good service, I think, has also gone up. So I think it's making us be more authentic about who we really are and how well we're really doing.
And I do agree with Ian overall that this is a positive thing because it makes companies respond quicker, even if it's because they don't want to be embarrassed by it. Even if it's because they don't want to be embarrassed by it. And the other thing it means is that you have to be more resilient as a leadership, though, because you have to not worry about what people say about you. Because if you did, you would not come out of the house. So people can say incredible things without knowing you about it all, and you have to become really resilient and calm about it. But I think overall it is a very positive thing.
What's different now is it is total transparency virtually everywhere all the time. And I think, I may be a bit more, I think it probably will lead to more real behaviour, if you like, and less ability to do a sort of dark arts of Mandelson and spin and presentation, because you can't really spin if everyone can see everything you're doing. So I think in that sense, it should be easier, but to sort of see higher, if you like, cultural standards.
Well, I'm very clear. I've gone on record many times saying that I think the banks should be split between, that they should be ring-fenced, and that the utility, if you want to describe it, lending bank should be ring-fenced and have a quasi-government support. And the investment bank should be off at one side and should stand on its own 2 feet. I think they've also got to stop lying about the lending to the real economy, which they continually do. They come up with figures that the number of approvals is just the same as it was 5 years ago. But I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever had any experience of trying to borrow some money at the moment, but I'd say it's just about impossible. So I think until we start to see them lending money again to the real economy, we're going to see no recovery in this country. We're going to really struggle.
So in the end, this is not about rules, controls and processes. It is about self-regulation and behaviour. And for whatever rules and processes you have, there are lots of laws out there that you can break if you want to. So the controls and processes find it in the end, but it's about self-regulation and behaviour. If some CEOs were trusted, even when a problem like LIBOR arose, they may not have had to go. Whereas if they are not as liked or trusted as they think they are, then when there is a problem, people get them. Whereas if you are trusted and you make mistakes, I think I've got away with many more mistakes than I should have done.
But the other reality, and I just put the one elephant in the room here, is that CEO pay has I think got somewhat disconnected, is the polite phrase, and I stand here as a recipient of it, which is, in only my defence, my base salary has gone up a grand total of 2% in the last 4 years. So I hope I've at least been paid for performance rather than occupying the chair. But I think the reality is when you are paid that much money, there is a disconnect. And people look at it and say, can they really generate that performance? And they look at footballers completely differently. Quite happy to pay a footballer because I can understand the performance. And I think that has eroded some of the trust. And CEOs need to now demonstrate how can business be basically a force for good. You know, it is not just pay tax, employ people, but actually have a positive purpose. And to tie it to the connection on the social transparency, if you don't have a purpose that your teams inside understand and that you are transparent, you ultimately will get found out and you will ultimately not transmit something positive.